Welcome to my channel this morning. We are going to be discussing a fascinating innovation in macroeconometrics that was put in place by Pesaran, Shin and Smith in 2001, the Autoregressive distributed lag model. The Autoregressive distributed lag model was put in place to consider situations where the time series data used in the model have mixture of variables that reverted to its means or those that became stationary after being subjected to phase differencing. The autoregressive distributed lag model is used where the dependent variable is a function of its own past lag values as well as the current and the past values of other explanatory variables. And there are many underlying assumptions for the use of this particular model. Ardl is a model that is used in estimating the relationship between our among time series or macroeconomic variables. And the first assumption for the use of Ardl is that there should be absence of autocorrelation in the model. And secondly, there should not be any issue relating to heteroscedasticity in the model. And thirdly, the model must follow normal distribution. And like I said previously, in Ardl model, there is always a mixture of variables that became stationary at level and those that became stationary after phase differencing, provided that the dependent variable became stationary after phase differencing. So it's only when these conditions are being upheld that the Ardl estimation will be justified. Anything less than this, the Ardl estimation will not be validated. The autoregressive distributed lag model PQ assumes that a time series YT can be represented by a linear function of P of its previous values and Q of the lag values of other time series data included in the model. And this Ardl model is useful for forecasting and disentangling the long-run relationship from the short-run dynamics. What does it mean? What I'm trying to establish is that in Ardl results or estimation, researchers are expected to actually disentangle or separate the long-run impact of one variable on another as well as the short-run impact of such a relationship. Some time series are bound together due to equilibrium forces, though the individual time series might move considerably. If both the F and the T statistics of the bound states are significant, only then can we conclude that the variables are co-integrated. Otherwise, they are not. What we're trying to establish is that in Ardl model, you are expected to actually decide if the long run and the short run model or results are significant on the basis of the bounds text. The bounds text is the co-integrating text used in the Ardl approach. It enables the researcher to actually determine the presence or absence of a long-run co-integrating relationship or convergence in the model. And whenever time you compare the F statistics and the critical values of the bounds text, you can now decide either to proceed or not. For more videos and information or details on bounds text, please visit my previous videos on bounds text. Basically, like what I said in the beginning of this class, I said that the Ardl model enables us to actually know how relationships between dependent and independent variables are being ascertained. And for you to actually get a robust result in Ardl test, it is expected that the law of large number must be adhered to. The law of large number implies that your variables or your observations must be greater than 30. So in this class, we are going to adopt a study approach in the sense that I'm going to look at the impact of external trade financing on economic growth in Nigeria. So let's go to my review worksheet for proper estimation. So this is my EV worksheet. My EV worksheet, I have the variables I want to use for the study. I have the deposit money bank credit to export, deposit money bank credit to import, the exchange rate, the GDP growth rate, and LOC letter of credit. I also have NESIM credits. So actually the first thing to do when you want to estimate an ARDL test is to actually ascertain the stationarity condition of the time series data. And I have done that previously, to which I have decided to actually estimate an ARDL this morning. The characteristics of the time series data shows that almost all of the time series data I'm going to be using this morning became stationary after first differencing, except the deposit money bank credit to the export rate. And given that condition, it is now justifiable or justified to actually adopt or use the ARDL framework for this estimation, because we have the mixture of series that became stationary at level and those that became stationary after phase difference. And one other condition to actually estimate ARDL or conventional procedure is to actually determine or to know the appropriate lag length that you are expected to use. Though the ARDL framework do not make lag length a very necessary condition, but in my studies I actually try to ensure that I'm aware of my lag length before proceeding to avoid having spurious regression. So to have that achieved, I go to quick a maneuver to estimate VAR. The VAR specification box will open. You input your variables. I already have them copied already. I have GDP growth rates, the log of deposit money bank, the log of deposit money bank to exports, deposit money bank to imports, the log of NESIM credits. We have the log of letter of credit. I also decide to log my exchange rates in this particular study, because I'm dealing with the real value of the exchange rate. So decide to leave it in default. If you click OK, you'll be exposed to a result that looks like a basic VAR result, but this is not where you are going to. From this area you go to view. From view you maneuver to lag structure. From lag structure you pull over again to lag length criteria. You hit the button. Once you hit the button, you will not be exposed to lag specification button. You click OK. You move on. This is your lag selection result. This is how your lag selection result will look like. You have 5 specifications or 5 criterion. These 5 criterions are also known as information criterion, and Aquan final prediction, Akaike information criterion, SWAS information criterion. But the basis for which decision will be taken from this particular result is to look at where the asterisks falls. The asterisks, if you trace them horizontally, you observe that they lie between lag 3. If you look at the sequential modifier LRO test statistics, the asterisk is in lag 3. You look at the final prediction error, the asterisk is in lag 3. You look at the Akaike information criterion, the asterisk is in lag 3, whereas the SWAS information criterion is in lag 1, and the Hana-Aquan information criterion is in lag 3. So basically, majority of the information criterions advise that this particular estimation or procedure should be done with lag length 3. It is on this premise I am going to estimate the ARDL model of how standard trade financing affects economic growth in Nigeria with lag length 3. So let's proceed. I'm back again to my worksheet. I'll go to quick. I'll move on to quick again. Now I'll now go to estimate equation. I'll go to estimate equation. I input my equation. This is the equation I'm working with. Given the conditions underlying these assumptions or this estimation, I'll go to method of study. This is method of study. I will go to the last one. I'm using if use 9. I go to the last one, Ardl, autoregressive distributed lag models. I click on it. I may decide to leave it at lag 4. I also may decide to actually vary the lags, because the appropriate lag is lag 3. So since my appropriate lag is lag 3, I will now change it to lag 3. I'll leave it in automatic selection. I will leave it at constant level. My method is Ardl. Sample size is 1981 to 2020. In this option box, I don't have any option. However, my main information criterion is AIC. I will leave it in default because AIC is my main information criterion. Everything seems good and okay. If I hit the OK button, I will be exposed to this result. This is the first result. This is called the static Ardl test. It's called the static Ardl result. This particular result is not the long run, it's not the short run result, but it is called the static Ardl result. Then I will now maneuver to view. From view, you now move on again to co-integrating long run forms. You now move on to co-integrating long run forms. Co-integrating long run forms. You will now be exposed to this Ardl co-integrating and long run forms. Dependent variable, the GDP, GR, selected lag, selected the model, Ardl 313233 model, dated today, the 18th day of July 2023, a time 0504 Nigerian time. The sample is between 1980 to 2020, included observation 38 observations. So, however, this is the results, the Ardl text for external trade financing and economic growth in Nigeria. So this result is in twofold. The first phase of this result, this area, is called the short run results, whereas the second phase is the long run coefficient. So you have the short run coefficient and the long run coefficient. So if it were to be in EV10, the short run would have been separated from the long run, but the beauty of EV9 is that EV9 model the short run and the long run together. So when you are actually expected to interpret these results, you are supposed to put them neatly into a PowerPoint where appropriate interpretation will be offered. So let's proceed to PowerPoint where we actually offer appropriate interpretation to this particular fascinating output. I've copied it, I highlighted, I copied. I'm moving back to either PowerPoint. Okay, let me use Microsoft Word. I'm moving back to Microsoft Word to actually present these results in a manner that it will be somehow readable and let's make justice to it. This is the result. This is the Ardl short run result. This is the Ardl short run result. Then this is the Ardl long run result. So this is Ardl long run result. You can decide to also split it and arrange them in a way that it will be readable and offer interpretation. So let's go back to the short run results. The short run results as presented here, we now observe that we have the contemporaneous impact or effect of the previous value, which we also call the past realization of the dependent variable. We have the GDP growth lag 1, GDP growth lag 2. You can now see that GDP growth lag 2 is a significant determinant of GDP in the current year. That means that GDP has a feedback impact on itself, which is also a very important factor that gave validity or robustness of this model, because when you estimate Ardl model, it's expected that the lag value of the dependent variable should appear in the result to actually validate the estimation you have done. So if you look at other variables, look at the domestic deposit money bank credit to export rate is positive but is not significant because the P value is more than 5%. But if you look at deposit money bank loan or credit to import trade, the coefficient is 19.90, whereas the t-statistics is 2.28 and the p-value is 0.03 and is significant. This implies that a percentage increase in deposit money bank credit or loan to import trade will amount to 19.9% increase on will amount to 19.9% unit increase on economic growth in Nigeria. Because the reason why I'm using units is because the dependent variable is there is a rate. The reason why I'm using units is because the dependent variable is a rate. Had it been that the dependent variable is there is a value or was low, I would have said a percentage increase in deposit money bank credit to import trade will be associated to 19%. But since it's a unit, we will not say 19 units. So that is that. Then also the previous or the past realization or the past value of deposit money bank loan to import trade is also having a positive impact on the economic growth in Nigeria by emitting 21.19 unit increase on economic growth, which is in line with the a priori expectation, because the a priori expectation is that when loans or credits to import trade increases, it's expected to actually increase the nation's level of growth, which is also what this particular result explained. So back to the second year lag value is not significant. As you can see, the p value is 10%, which is above the specified threshold. Then the nursing credit. Nursing credits is a fund set apart, a particular bank set apart to actually assist those involved in export and import trade in Nigeria. You can see that the log of nursing credit is having a negative impact on economic growth in the short run, but is not significant, while its previous value, its previous realization, is having a negative impact on economic growth in Nigeria and is significant, which actually means that as nursing credit in Nigeria expands or increases over a longer period, in the short period of time, its past value have a tendency of actually causing a 10 unit reduction on economic growth, and this is not in line with average expectation. I'm not happy with it, but the researcher need to actually explain to us the reason why the nursing credit is having a negative impact on economic growth. Could it be that this fund that is set apart for investing or for investors in this sector of the nation's economy are not used for what it is meant for, or that the allocation to the sector is affecting other sectors of the nation's economy? So the researcher need to actually unravel or think out other factors that may have actually caused the nursing credit to have negative impact on the dependent variable. So the other issue or other factor here, I will have the log value of letter of credit is having a negative impact, but is not significant. But also the previous value, the first and the second year lag value of the letter of credit are not having significant impact at 5%. This implies that letter of credit though had negative impact on the nation's level of growth, but its impact is not strong enough to actually cause any variation in the nation's level of growth. The last variable here is the exchange rate, the log value of the exchange rate. I decided to log this exchange rate because I'm dealing with the value, and I decided to log it. And the exchange rate is having a negative impact on economic growth, and that is in line with the a priori expectation. The negative impact is significant at 5%, which actually implies that as exchange rate dollar to naira appreciates over time, there is a tendency of having a negative impact on the nation's level of growth, because when the exchange rate of dollar to naira increases or appreciates, then the cost of production in Nigeria will be high, and that will also lead to low productivity, amount to other negative vices that will actually pull down the nation's level of growth, which is also what this particular estimation explained to us. That means that the exchange rates coincide or conforms to the apparent expectation. I'm happy with this, and this explains what the researcher had expected previously. Then the other important factor in the short run is what they call the co-integrating equation 1, is also called the ECM term. The ECM term is the error correction term. This error correction term is expected to have three characteristics. The error correction term is expected to be negative, less than 1, and the p-value is supposed to be significant. It's only when these three conditions are being upheld that this error correction term will be accepted. And in what we have today, the error correction term is 0.897969, which actually would explain that the past disequilibrium associated with the external trade financing and economic growth in Nigeria squabble can actually herald to a long run equilibrium at the speed of 90% per annum. That implies that the past problem will be adjusted at the speed of 90%. This speed though is very high, but is necessary at this time. So let's proceed to other determinants or the long run coefficients. In the long run, you can actually look at it here. These are the variables. We have the coefficient, standard error, t-statistics, and probability values. And these variables we are looking at here explain the permanent impact of external trade financing on economic growth. So if you look at the whole of this particular estimation, it's only one variable. It's only one variable aside the constant term that is significant, which is the deposit money bank loan to import. And deposit money bank loan to import had a negative impact in the long run. But if we go to the short run results, in the short run result we explained previously, deposit money bank loan to import trade had a positive impact in the short run, while in the long run deposit money bank loan to import has a negative impact on economic growth. And this negative impact implies that when loan to import trade, when deposit money bank loan was sent gives as credit to import trade, it will actually reduce the level of economic growth in Nigeria, and this results is not in line with the apparent expectation. The researcher will actually need to expose to readers the reason why there is disparity or discrepancy in the short run and the long run result. And if I may actually go further, I will not say that the long run impact of loan or credit to deposit money to importers could actually be associated to too many factors exhibiting or emanating from the exchange rate inconsistency. Recall that importers are those that actually import goods and services into this country, and for them to import goods and services into this country, they need to exchange their local currency to foreign currency to enable them import goods and services. And many of the time, whenever they decide or they try to get forex from the central bank or other sources to actually import goods and services, and before the goods and services arrive to this country for them to actually sell and get back their money, you observe that the exchange rate to which they exchange their initial capital becomes higher than what they anticipated, and in many cases that discourages some investors and actually causes decline many issues that affect their profit margin. So having a negative impact in the case of Nigeria, where the volatility of the exchange rate is perverse, is something that we can actually tolerate, given the fact that the Nigerian economy is fragile. So brethren, my friends and readers, this is how we actually estimate the long run and the short run results of Ardl bonds text. For you to present them in your paper, try to actually make them fascinating, present them, arrange them, put them out neatly and make them look nice, and offer appropriate interpretation to this particular study. One difference about the Ardl model using the EVU9 and EVU10 is that in EVU9 we don't have the statistical section of the Ardl results in this particular co-integrated form and long run form. And for you to actually get the statistical section of this result, you go back to view, you go to estimation output, you come back to your first static result. You can actually get the statistical section of the Ardl results from this particular static result. The static result is the first result you get from your Ardl test. You can copy them neatly and take them back to the Microsoft Word. While you are arranging your result, you can put them and interpret. What do I mean? Statistical background, I mean the arrow square, the F statistics, the information criterion, and the adjusted arrow square. So in the model I just estimated, the arrow square value is 84% and the adjusted value is 66%, which explains that 66% of the changes in economic growth is associated to the variables, the interplay of the variable I just explained in the regression result. While the F statistics is lower and the p-value is okay, this implies that the model has a good fit. The information criterion used is still archaic information criterion, and the rule of thumb here is that the lower the value, the better the model. If you look at it, information criterions, we have these three. We also understand that the AIC is lower than every other information criterion. Then the only area I would have had issue is the Watson statistics, though not too far from the required margin, but it's in between the margin, because the Watson statistics is suspected to be within the margin of 1.5 to 2.5, but we're having 2.53, but in as much as it's within 2.53, it can be tolerated. So thank you. In my next video I will be looking at violations of OLS assumption, which is also classified as post-estimation text with this particular result. Thank you for staying tuned to my channel. Please stay tuned as I upload other interesting video relating to macroeconometrics. God bless you.